It's go time. I mean, the election is in 25 days. Obviously, everyone's fixated on the presidential race, but there is, I mean, it is the Super Bowl for election reform. There are 6 states, well, really more than that, if you think about include the district and then some other reform efforts, but really, 5, 6 places that we are primarily focused where we see tremendous opportunity, where voters will go to the polls and decide whether they want to stick with their antiquated, worst of two evils, plurality election models that are exclusionary and deprive voters of choices, or whether they want to open up their primaries and allow taxpayers, including registered independents, to vote and to have real choices when they go to do it. So to me, it's just incredibly clear that we're on the side of history, the right side of history. What we're up against is entrenched, political interests and power structures. And so we see that in Washington, D.C., where we, are battling with the Democratic Party. We see that in other places where we're, battling with the Republican Party, or factions of those parties that have interests other than creating a thriving democracy in which everyone participates and in which healthy competition is happening every single cycle. So I think you're on this call because you share that belief, and if so, consider this your home, because it's going to be a wild, ride these next several weeks. But we are, and it's an organizational value, we take the long view. So our strategy will not change between now and election day, nor will it change after election day. We're going to continue moving as an acceleration of the, the movement to make sure that every state is having a conversation around its election structures and whether or not they deliver the results for voters that they want. So we know from studying other movements that this stuff looks impossible and it looks slow and it looks hard until it is suddenly inevitable and fast. And we think that the actions in states. So we've asked our state leaders to join and give us just a real update on what is going on in these priority states: Alaska, Nevada, Colorado, Montana, Idaho, and then the District of Columbia. And if other folks are on from Arizona or, help me out, Eric, South Dakota,
Oregon, and we'll get an update from Seamus, our legislative state leader in New York as well.
Yeah, so lots of great stuff happening. We'll also show you some of the commercials that have been running in these states. It's interesting. If you are a partisan registered voter, if you're a partisan registered Democrat in a solidly Republican state, you're receiving almost no political communication other than maybe what's on TV. But there may not be a lot on TV if it's not a competitive state. If you are a registered independent voter in one of the 6 battleground states, you're being deluged. I mean, literally, hundreds of dollars in your mailbox, on your TV screen, to target you specifically. So there's a real split screen happening in this country where some people are being absolutely inundated, and then other audiences are being entirely ignored. And I'm currently in the entirely ignored camp in Indiana because it's not a particularly competitive state. But what these folks are leading in these states, which you'll hear about, there is competition, especially for these ballot initiatives. So really excited for what's coming. And also, the last thing I'll say is there's a world, because we're going to gather again. And in fact, our next meeting will be post-election, which is hard to believe. Our next monthly all hands meeting will be post-election. So we're going to get back on this line in 4 weeks, fresh off of the election. And there's a world, in my view, in which 6 of these ballot initiatives are successful. And there's a world in which 6, are not successful. And maybe a more likely scenario of something in between that. So we'll see, but I want to kind of set the expectation. We don't actually know what's coming, which is why this is such a critical effort and why it really is go time. So thanks everyone for tuning in. And Eric, I'll kick it back to you, brother.
Great. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and make sure to share sound as well. All right. Todd, can you see that okay?
Yep, looking good.
So this is the map, which is, I think this is where we left off on our last call. This is our map and the states we're supporting. And today we're going to highlight there's 5 states where Veterans for All Voters has paid state leaders, veteran leaders in the states on the ground who are just doing incredible work organizing fellow veterans in support of ballot initiatives. And then in addition to those 5 ballot initiative states, we have Seamus Murphy in New York, which is a legislative state. And we'll also be highlighting DC. Our good friend Lisa Rice is the petitioner there in DC, and Adam from Dr. Brunner's is joining us today to give us an update on DC at the end. So I was going to go from Northwest to the East, but instead I'm going to just follow this deck that Jameson put together, did a beautiful job. So we're going to start with Nevada. I'm going to cue up the commercial with Mike Escobar, and then we have Brandon Moody, the state leader in Nevada, joining us. So here's the Nevada commercial spot that is.
I fought for our country, but here in Nevada, our closed primary system prohibits 600,000 independents like me from voting. Yes on 3 will open primaries, guaranteeing all voters the right to vote. Join veterans across Nevada. Vote yes on 3.
So that was the old ad from 2022. And here's Mike's new spot. And look at how much higher the number of independents is now in Nevada. It was 600,000 in 2022. And here's the 2024 ad.
We defend democracy for every single American. But right now, independent voters are locked out from Nevada's closed primary, prohibited from voting in a taxpayer-funded election, excluding nearly 1 million Nevada voters like me from having a say. But this year, we can finally change that. Question 3 opens our primary to all registered voters, so all Nevadans have the right to vote in all elections, giving everyone more and better choices in November. Vote yes on 3.
Great work, Mike Escobar. And so Brandon,
Yes.
I'll kick it over. I'll stop sharing and kick it over to Brandon Moody in Nevada.
Okay, hello everyone. It's really exciting. Yeah, yes on 3 is our ballot initiative, and I'm just going to share my screen to share some photos while I talk about some of the stuff we've been doing. Let me share here. Okay, so that should be on everyone's screen. Yeah, so Nevada updates. Just going to start with obviously we know Mike's ads are going out. And they're also coming in the form of mailers, which the screen's going to kind of block it, but you can obviously see Mike right there. And it's a really awesome mailer that everybody's getting, including me. So it's been really cool to see. And we're also piggybacking on that with communications to people we haven't reached out to that are likely veterans through citizens data, letting them know like, hey, Mike's real. He's sending a real message. And so hopefully that increases just the perception of this whole thing. With ads, it looks really polished and it looks incredible, but we want to make sure that everybody knows like Mike's real.
What version we're going to use?
Sorry, is that a question? I didn't catch. So yeah, so the things on the screen here, Nevada Current's been putting out some, just more information. Finally, we're seeing more articles come out about question 3, which is great. I feel like a lot of these articles get lost in the sauce when it's several months before the election. So it was great to see Nevada Current put that out. And it's funny because if you see it's actually from election 2022. So they do explain that this is already passed. Question 3 is passed once in 2022 and that it needs to pass again. Over here to my to the right side of the screen, you see me with a bunch of students and including the Attorney General of Clark County. He is there with us supporting youth students who are learning how to become activists. Veterans for Nevada Voters is the primary sponsor of RISE's Youth Wave, which is an effort to get all youth out there. And we're particularly focusing on veteran supporters who want to help us with our work, and then also young veterans who are currently at UNLV. And we'll also be doing some additional RISE seminars talking about advocacy and these things. Next week we'll be at the this Nevada State colleges in Henderson and a couple other areas. So we'll be making some tweets about that next week. It's really cool to see a lot of students come out, and some of those people in there are young veterans and some veteran supporters you see in there. So addition to those events, we're also working with Yes on 3 campaign to get tables anywhere we can. So this is us at a couple of our tables at UNLV, at the two different one was just, we're going to be there weekly until the election. And then one was for a big student org where we teamed up with Babe Vote, which is a up and coming newly established student group that is aligned with us. So Babe Vote is aligned with Yes on 3. And so they're also bringing a lot of student support in, which is just great to see, because the youth vote is just massive when it comes to these kind of initiatives, and them being aware of what's at stake, especially if they hadn't voted before, to know that how important these ballot initiatives are is kind of what message we're really, really able to put through. And we do get a lot of response at our tables. Lastly, we went to First Friday, which is a big, massive kind of swap meet street fair that the Arts District holds. We were there in strong support with our, really making a splash, with a lot of people coming up, debunking a lot of questions about the ballot initiative, and some misconceptions going out there that it's, big money's coming in, and this isn't really a Nevada issue. This is more of a national issue. And we've really clearly explained that in Nevada, the biggest political group is independents now. They're bigger than Democrats. They're bigger than Republicans. So that really did open up a lot of people's eyes to this. And so, yeah, that's what I have. We're going to continue to just reach out to new people and work really closely with the Yes on 3 campaign, because they've obviously very experienced with this. They succeeded 2 years ago, and we're going to help them push through the finish line. And I'm here for any more specific questions if I didn't give enough specifics here. But thank you for your time.
No, that was perfect. That was perfect, Brandon. Thank
Great.
you so much.
Yeah.
Great work there. We Veterans for All Voters will be on the ground in Las Vegas the last weekend of October. There's the military conference, MCON. I dropped a link in the chat for all of our upcoming events. If any of you are going to be there, Alex, our chief of staff, and Hamp, who is a Skillbridge fellow who is retiring from the Air Force today after 30 years. I don't know if, and Hamp probably can't join us because it's literally his retirement ceremony today. But Hamp and Alex will be there. And then I know many of you who are Nevada-based and Las Vegas-based will be there as well. So we'll be tabling at MCON, and then I'm leading a panel on Sunday, October 27th. And there'll be a happy hour on Saturday, October 26th. Everyone's invited to the happy hour in downtown Las Vegas, October 26th. Alex, anything I'm missing on MCON or anything you wanted to tap on? Okay, that's all right. No worries, brother. Sorry, I put you on the spot. All right, let's go on to our next state. I'm going to share my screen again, and we're going to go to the great state of Colorado. So Tony Haas, get ready after this. We don't have a video or commercial yet. There is one featuring a veteran. It just hasn't been released yet. But we have a radio spot that a really incredible Colorado veteran, Ted Delacath, recorded. So I'm going to play that spot, and then we'll go to Tony Haas for an update on Colorado.
A message paid for by Veterans for All Voters. Listen to this message from Ted Delacath, former Army infantryman and Ranger qualified platoon leader active in the Army Reserves.
When I enlisted in the Army, I swore an oath to this country, not any political party. That's why I'm interested in citizens' ballot measures around the country to reduce the power of political parties. Colorado votes on one too. Right now, election rules allow political insiders to handpick party nominees. It's the reason we're usually stuck voting for the lesser of two evils. Colorado's plan creates an open primary where all candidates appear on one primary ballot. Every voter has the freedom to vote for any candidate, no matter which party. The Colorado plan advances 4 candidates to the general election, not 2. That means more choices for voters in the primary and general election. Get the facts. Elections belong to the voters, not political parties.
Paid for by Veterans for All Voters. Anthony Haas, registered agent. The use of military rank and job titles does not imply endorsement by the Department.
All right. So Anthony Haas, the registered agent, is also our director of volunteer engagement and our Colorado state leader, and also recently retired from the Army and moved to Colorado relatively recently, and is doing a fantastic job. So Tony, hand it over to you for an update on Colorado.
Thanks, Eric, and thanks everybody for joining today. So really the top line update from Colorado is that the campaign is going well. Polling data looks generally positive. We're lucky that the campaign here is well resourced, and they've done a great job of outreach to really get some very high profile endorsers, like the current governor Polis, one of the current U.S. senators, Hickenlooper, the mayors of like the 4 or 5 largest cities in Colorado of all like publicly endorsed. So the campaign has done a fantastic job as far as getting those endorsements. What VAV has been doing to support the campaign is really a lot of education and outreach. Um, and we are kind of operationalizing that using the Majority Rules documentary film, right? So right now we have on October 20th in Fort Collins, we're going to be screening Majority Rules in partnership with Represent Us and Represent Fort Collins. We're doing a co-branded event there. And yesterday I confirmed one more event in Littleton, Colorado, just outside of Denver on the 22nd. And I expect to get 2 or 3 more on the calendar over the next week as well. They're VAV hosted and sponsored events. So that's going really well, and we're really getting a lot of traction with that. And to drive outreach to these events, what we're planning on doing, I know some of the state leaders have acquired some of the voter data from citizen data, so we're going to use that to kind of drive turnout to these events as well. Just kind of shoot a text or an email to folks reminding them, hey, there's a great free documentary screening at a really cool local theater downtown, coming up. So please come out for that. We're additionally going to be doing some mailers. I think we're going to produce those next week and send them out the week following. So they're kind of coming in the mail with all the mail-in ballots that go out in Colorado, because they do 100% mail-in ballots here. Everyone gets one. So hopefully our mailers, our VAV mailers will be showing up in mailboxes around the same time as ballots. And again, overall, like I said, polling data, everything looks, we're very optimistic. Things look good. We're not getting complacent in Colorado, though. And as I don't know if Greg Moore is on this call, but he pointed out the other day, and I've been repeating a lot because it's really, really important and really insightful. Winning isn't the only thing that we need to do. We need to run up the score in some key districts in Colorado, because something kind of unique here is that there was an election security bill that was passed that it included an amendment that was sort of underhandedly snuck in at the last minute in the legislative session that would at least at a minimum significantly delay implementation, even if the measure does pass in November. So what we're really trying to do is kind of run up the score of support, so that we show the state legislature next time they convene for their next session, hey, there's a clear mandate from the people that this is the election system that they want. So highly encourage you to act on it, to implement it in a timely manner. But that's all the updates I have from Colorado, and open to any questions or comments anybody has, of course.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Tony. We'll probably keep moving around the horn to all the states, and then we'll see if anyone has state-specific questions at the end. But thanks for all the great work, Tony, in Colorado. And we're going to go to Alaska next. And I'm going to share my screen again. The Alaska ad does not feature one of our veterans specifically, but it is a veteran-centric ad that I'm going to play for you here next. And then we'll go to our state lead, Jeff Carson, and then also one of our superstar volunteer leaders in Alaska, Brian Schroeder, are both here on the call. So we'll play the ad and then we'll kick it over to you guys.
They defend America abroad. When they return home, many veterans and service members choose not to register with a political party. Now, political elites are using Measure 2 to force them to join a party just to vote in Alaska's primary. They put their lives on the line. They deserve the freedom to vote for who they want. Vote no on ballot Measure 2.
Paid for by No on 2. The top 3 contributors are Unite America, Action Now Initiative LLC, and Final Five Fund.
All right, so that's an Alaska ad leaning into veterans not being allowed to vote in primary elections, which is one of the big reasons why we started Veterans for All Voters. So kick it over to Jeff and Brian up in Alaska for an update.
Thanks, Eric. I really appreciate the opportunity to share with everyone here. Brian, I'm gonna try maybe 3 to 5 minutes. I'm going to provide a quick update, and then please, I'm going to kick it over to you, Brian. And if I've missed anything or you want to add anything, by all means, if that's all right. I'm going to share my screen real quick so you guys can take a look at this while I'm speaking. But let me first just start with context. In Alaska, most of you probably already know this, but in Alaska was the first state to get this beautiful reform through the finish line, right across the finish line. In 2020, then ballot measure 2 in 2020 was passed narrowly by 3,000 votes and change, which kicked in, this beautiful nonpartisan open primary system that has a ranked choice voting or instant runoff voting, top 4 general election. So I think we call it top 4 or the top 4, top 5 system. Alaska is the only state in the country that has it, and it's awesome. 2022 was the first election cycle where this was actually used, and it was a really unique cycle. The congressman up here, longtime congressman, passed away, and so there was a special election, and it was a bit chaotic, but it worked, and it was very interesting in terms of the election results up here from 2022. The short story is it seemed to moderate things, and the theory behind all of these reforms seemed to start proving out correctly. So we've got the reform up here. 2024 now, there is an effort to repeal it. Unfortunately, that is also ballot measure 2. So now in 2024, in November, when folks show up, they will also be voting on ballot measure 2, but this time ballot measure 2 repeals these reforms, and we go back to the old system if it passes. So the short story is we are asking people to vote no on ballot measure 2 now, even though in 2020 we were asking them to vote yes. It's a bit complicated, but that's the gist. And the bottom line up front, short story is it's very close. Unfortunately, the most recent polling has this uncomfortably close, and so we here on the ground are doing everything we can, over the next month to go out swinging and hope for the best. But this is very close. It's going to come down to the wire, it looks like, and that's this quick status update. I'll say a bit more about sort of my role here and what the campaign is doing and what VAV is doing. So I got here. I sort of parachuted in here in mid-July. I've been here about 3 months, and I've been wearing 2 hats since I arrived here. The primary hat I've been wearing is actually on the campaign. I've got a staff role on the campaign, and I probably spent 95% of my time on the campaign. My role is sort of a jack of all trades role. It's filling in gaps across the board, a lot of coalitions work, some volunteer work, some help on earned media and op-eds, some help with, tabling at events. This past week or so, I've been doing, community council presentations to local community groups. So it's really just kind of an across the board role, sort of jack of all trades role. And I will say, maybe from the veteran standpoint, from the VAV standpoint, or up here, it's Veterans for Alaska Voters. The one thing that VAV has been trying to do more than anything is lend the sort of veteran trusted messenger, and lend the brand of VAV, the Veterans for Alaska Voters in particular, to the campaign to message effectively. And so this is an example of that. This is a mailer that I've got up on the screen now that went out a couple weeks ago. It's also going to be a piece of collateral that we will have at an upcoming conference, the Alaska Federation of Natives Conference that's happening next week. Is 7,000 people are coming to Anchorage for this big conference, and VAV will have a presence there as well as the campaign. So this has gone out as a mailer. It's also going to be printed for a piece of collateral for this upcoming conference. And you can see, we're framing this as a voter guide, and you can see the branding here at the bottom: Veterans for Alaska Voters. And when we go to page 2, you can see here, very simple, very clean, right? What voting no on 2 means and what voting yes on 2 means. So again, really leveraging the VAV brand and veterans as a group as sort of a trusted messenger to, get this point across and try to win over as many voters as possible. Let me stop there. Brian, please share here if I missed anything or if you've had anything to add, and then of course if there's questions.
I don't have a lot to add. Maybe, one of the reasons that this meeting next week, we're going to the AFN meeting, is I know a lot of the folks on the call who are from the West have significant Native American populations in their states, but ours is 20%. Alaskan Natives are 20% of the population in Alaska. So to get in front of this group next week, who, like Jeff said, 7,000 or 8,000 people, but represent a significant portion of the population of the state, and a group that should be our allies, and talking to them, making sure they understand how important it is that they get out to vote and vote no on 2 is going to be pretty crucial. So we're excited for next week. That's it.
Thank you, Brian. And yeah, as Eric mentioned, Brian has been amazing up here, working with me hand in hand on all the veteran focused efforts. So thank you, Brian, tremendously.
Great update, Jeff and Brian. There is a question in the chat from Stefan about any polling on public sentiment in Alaska. I don't know if there's any top line things you can share.
Yeah, I would say obviously keep this confidential, right? To the extent that we can keep this confidential on the call. I think it's okay if I share that the polling is very close. Yes, we are polling. The campaign is actively polling, and we're doing tracking polls once about every 10 days. In the past 6 weeks, we have improved our position. We have significantly improved our position, and yet it is still very close. It is uncomfortably close, and we still need to get out there and earn every darn vote over the next month, because this is going to come down to the wire. Unfortunately, it just is what it is. Yeah.
All right. So it's it'll, as Jeff said, very close in Alaska. One cool connection point that Veterans for All Voters was able to get Alaska State Senator Kathy Giesel connected with the folks in Montana, which is the next state we're going to. And it's a fantastic story. For those of you who don't know it, we've shared out her video in previous newsletters, but the state senator is a big supporter of Final Four voting after having originally opposed it, but now seeing in real life how much better the governing environment is in Alaska now that people are rewarded for problem solving and for dealing with substantive issues instead of being show horses dealing with nonsense. So anyways, it's a powerful story. We're going to go to Montana next. I'm going to share my screen again. And so there's 2 commercials you'll see here. The one on the left and features Dave Ocklander, who's here with us. Dave's an Army veteran, West Point grad, class of 1990. Scott Walgren is a good friend of mine from the Naval Academy, class of 98. And so the ad on the left has not been released publicly yet, so we can't play that one, but we are going to play Scott and Dave's ad that they recorded together here.
When it comes to Army-Navy, David and I have a healthy rivalry.
But like so many we serve with, we share a common duty. I'll watch your back, you'll watch mine.
That's why Montanans like us are coming together for 126.
It takes power away from political parties and unaccountable leaders.
And puts it back in the hands of the people.
Taking back the freedom we swore to protect.
Vote yes on 126.
Bam. These, I don't know about you all, but these ads get me really fired up. Sometimes after I watch them, I yell in my office because it's just great seeing this happening. It's really happening. Thanks to all of you. So let's kick it over to Dave Ocklander in Montana, and for an update from your great state.
Yeah, hey everybody. Thanks for the opportunity to talk, and thanks for all the lessons and support that VAV has shared and all the other states have shared. It's been a great collaboration. Very similar to Alaska, polling here in Montana shows that our race for our 2 ballot initiatives is very close. The inside baseball is that it's in the 50s and a true toss-up, which has led to some of the obstacles that I will address. First of all, what we've been hearing from the voters on the ground is that these ballot initiatives at first touch are difficult to understand. So what that requires is multiple touches. The challenge is that there has been a hesitation from the organization that is leading our ballot initiative, Montanans for Election Reform, to really push the initiative, because there's a concern that we might activate opposition. There has not been a lot of vocal opposition in the state to this point. So a unique dynamic that I think is really that has created some fog and friction, but at the same time, a lot of great collaboration, and has required a lot of over communicating in order to understand what we can do, what we need to do, and what we shouldn't be doing. And so it's just led to a lot of great collaboration, and we've been really thankful for the support from Montanans for Election Reform all along. So that's where we are with regard to the polling and the barriers. Our recent wins. First thing I think I want to touch on is just as alluded to earlier, Todd from Idaho, Todd Achilles, he shared a best practice. We were able to buy through Citizens Data, a database with 23,000 names of veterans, and we've had about half that we had emails for, and a little less than half that we've had cell phone connection with. And what we've been able to do is send some targeted messages. It has not led to an outpouring of support, but I think it has been one touch point that will help us get through and be a piece of the bigger campaign that MER is trying to lead. And I'll address that in a vignette a little bit later. So that's been really helpful. We've been sending out a weekly email, and that email has been tied to a weekly video conference where we've invited folks to either A, get informed, and or B, we've asked people to get engaged and figure out how they can write op-eds, open their organizations to being willing to have us come and speak to them, or be advocates, and go through some MER training to be spokespersons. Next thing I'll touch on, early on, we thought that the VFWs and American Legions throughout the state would be really helpful to communicate with. And some were very open to our communication, and we've had exchanges at monthly meetings at the VFWs and American Legions. Scott just did one yesterday. Scott Walgren, as was mentioned, he's my counterpart here in the state. He did one in Bozeman at the American Legion yesterday, and it sounds like it went great. Other posts in the Legion and VFW side, they have been hesitant to bring anything that smells of politics into the organization. The breakthrough that we had was I had a couple of touch points with folks around the state commander with the VFW. They sounded very optimistic about these reforms. I finally got an audience with the state commander and told him what we wanted to do really was educate, not influence, but educate post members about these election reforms. And he said, absolutely, that's the kind of work that we should be doing with our members. And so that got us to start an audience at some of the more hesitant posts. In addition, one of our next steps is to try and get a post commander video conference with the state commander, so we can kind of do a train the trainer, educate the post commanders so that they can then do the trickle down to their members if questions come up as we get closer to the election. And that's where this multiple touch points comes in. And this vignette is just actually from yesterday. So a buddy of mine here in town in Helena, Montana, veteran, 4th Infantry Division, Army guy, initially very much opposed to these election reforms, and we had spoken about that. The day that he and I met for a beer to talk about these, he had someone from the electricians union knock on his door, and the electricians union is doing work for Montanans for Election Reform. That conversation got him really thinking about it. And then when I was able to close the conversation, he ended up on the very strong yes side. And that's where these multiple touch points is really valuable. Next item, Scott and I have also been able to publish some op-eds. They've been run in the Bozeman, Missoula, and Flathead papers. And what was really exciting was that one of our former governors, Governor Roscoe, a strong Republican, with his Secretary of State, a couple of days after, also ran an op-ed in support of 126 and 127. And then, just as was mentioned earlier from Eric, Kathy Geisel, we were able to help coordinate through MER to get her on a radio station that really has a statewide audience through multiple radio stations, podcasts, news outlets, etc., and a strong Facebook presence. And she was in an interview with a journalist, radio host, who was initially skeptical. And from everything that I have heard, that has not been released yet, but from everything that I've heard, it was a very good interview. And they have strong touch. This radio organization has strong touch points with ranchers and the ag folk throughout much of rural Montana, which is really where our opposition comes from. The folks who are much more in red Montana, where folks are much more prone on the Republican side to follow their central committee's opposition to stuff like this. And then right now I'm at a hotel, the Montana Nonprofit Association, great organization, had a conference. They had 300 plus attend, and I was able to get up on stage and address all of them about the election reforms. And that drove a lot of folks down to our table where we were tabling over the last 2 days. And there's been unanimous consent that, and as Todd likes to say, it's unimpeachable. Once you get a couple of touch points, people are wildly in agreement with this. It just takes those couple of touch points. And that's where, the obstacle comes into play. If you're hesitant to communicate, it reduces the touch points. So anyway, that's where we're going. Last thing, we've got a couple of events scheduled, hopefully here in the near future, with some universities to talk to some students and veterans organizations there. And that's what's coming up in our future. That's all I've got. Sorry if I took too long.
No, that's awesome. Dave, thank you so much. You and Scott are really just crushing it up in Montana. And we found out that your ad has started airing today. So I'm going to go ahead and before we go to Idaho, I'm going to go ahead and share the other ad from Montana, which features Dave solo. And here's the spot. I might need to put in a password. Hang on. Oops.
I lost 9 of my paratroopers in Afghanistan, young men who gave their lives for freedom, independence, and democracy. The politics we're seeing right now is not what they sacrificed for. That's why I'm voting yes on 126. 126 breaks the grip of political parties and special interests and gives us the freedom to choose the candidates who truly match our values. Vote yes on 126.
Outstanding. All right, let me go back to, so outstanding work in Montana, great in-state partner Montanans for election reform. So we'll move on to Idaho. After Idaho, we'll hit New York, our legislative state, and then we'll wrap up with DC and hopefully have a little time.
I'm Randy Worrell, Air Force.
Hopefully have a little time for Q&A or other state updates. The professional campaign ad from Idaho is not publicly available. We're not allowed to show that yet. So this is more of a homegrown spot. And then the public ad should be coming out here in the week. And Todd Achilles will be giving us an update after this ad.
I'm Randy Worrell, Air Force veteran and East Idaho resident. When I was in the military, the best commanders were the ones that were concerned for everyone in the unit. As a voter, I look for the candidate that will best represent all of the citizens. That's why I'm an independent voter, and that's why I support Proposition 1 on the November ballot.
Nice. Makes me want to get out on the water. All right, Todd Achilles, what do you have?
Yeah, that's a quintessential Idaho backdrop there of fly fishing on the upper snake. It doesn't get any better than that. But yeah, we've done a bunch of social media videos like that. We've got one more professionally done one that we're keeping in the can for a little bit longer. The quick update from Idaho, it's a dogfight here. Polling is positive, but it's really tight. And like Tony said, in Colorado, our objective is to run up the score. So, right now, the far right of the Republican Party is just throwing everything at the no on Proposition 1. We've had the Attorney General sue us 3 times to try and stop the initiative. He failed all 3 times. But right now, they're really trying to just obfuscate and complicate what the proposition does. And of course, they're grasping on to ranked choice voting and coming up with every complex scenario that they can. But they know it's the end of their stranglehold if we get this across the line, which goes into, I think, a really interesting point in how Montana and Idaho, even though we're neighbors, were a little bit different. It's actually the rural Republicans, kind of more old school Republicans, that are leaning in support. And it's the kind of urban, ex-urban conservatives that are more of that kind of far right. And it's that sort of the 2 wings of the Republican Party is what we're playing with in Idaho. A couple of things we're doing. We've really been leaning into membership. We've grown our membership by about 25% or just over the last week, with a couple of things coming together. We're over 250 vets now in the state, and and the far right, the no on Prop 1 absolutely is just going apoplectic about a group of Republican, Independent, and Democratic veterans working together for the good of the state. It drives them nuts. And the chairman of our organization is one of the most popular politicians in the state, 3-term governor, Republican governor, Butch Otter. And, and you get in the whole rhino thing and everything else, but that's really sort of key to our messages. We're just incredibly disciplined and intentional about being bipartisan, about not letting any of our party politics into the organization. And it's been working really well. I think a couple things, we're really focused on outreach. So we're holding showings of majority rules. We're tabling at events. We're just showing up and talking to people. Everybody's got their blue Veterans for Idaho Voters hat on. And one example is there was a debate 2 days ago down in Twin Falls, which is in southern Idaho, kind of the ag center of the state. 2 Republicans debating. One of them was a Marine reservist, 4th-generation cattle rancher. He was on yes on Prop 1, and then one of the local party folks was no on Prop 1. And JD, the cattle rancher, who was, if you look at if you imagine a cattle rancher from Idaho, JD is it. And he won the room. He did a phenomenal job, and he really focused on, listen, I've been in this state for 4 generations. Are we better off since the primaries closed? And everybody in the room says no. And that's just a sort of indisputable fact that 60% of Idahoans agree with that. I participated in a debate against one of the former GOP chairmen 2 days ago up in the Ketchikan Valley area. Was able to convert a couple of people in the room there too. So it's just all about this outreach. So what we're doing in the home stretch here, more member videos that we're distributing on social media, really leaning into boosting those posts. We've got yard signs that are going in all over the state. We're taking pictures of them in some of the most scenic places in Idaho, and we're posting those. We had a group of our members recording a radio spot this morning, which is going to go live probably next week through the end. And then just continuing to email and newsletters and do showings of majority rules, with a big one coming up on the 29th in Boise, where Eric's going to come join us for a couple beers and talk democracy.
Yes. I can't wait to finally get to Idaho in person, Todd. Thanks. That's such an awesome update. You all have just built an incredible engine and organization there. So thank you. So I'm going to share my screen again real quick. And okay, before I go to the next state, which is Seamus up in New York, I just want to double tap on a couple of these upcoming events. You've heard a number of our leaders mention majority rules. If you haven't seen it yet, please go out and see it. MajorityRulesFilm.com. It's now available on Apple TV. This is the documentary that tells the story of the power of the Alaska election model, and it asks the question, what if changing the way we vote could change everything? And we think it can. So Majority Rules. Also, I want to highlight Rally for Reforms. This is going to be a really fun national partner event that I would ask you to please consider inviting 5 family or friends to. It will feature Andrew Yang, our friends from Open Primaries, our friends from Unite America, independent voters all over the country getting together October 21st. It's a Zoom event, 6 p.m. Eastern time on October 21st. So these are all up on our upcoming events website. All right, we'll kick it over to Veterans for New York Voters, which is a legislative state in partnership with Unite New York. Seamus Murphy's been doing incredible work, and I'm going to hand it over to Seamus now.
Thank you, Eric. So in New York, we're just working in lockstep with our partners at Unite New York, supporting voter registration and majority rule screening efforts across the state. Additionally, working with them on legislative advocacy in Albany and looking at different municipalities for election innovations across the state as well. Additionally, our partners, the Final Five NYC, are looking to end 2024 fundraising and building the infrastructure to lead a full launch campaign next year to get Final Five voting on the ballot in the November elections in New York City. And so they'll be their 2 goals are establishing open primaries to get Final Five in the general, and then the Final Five move to the general, and then moving ranked choice voting to the general election. Currently, it's only in the primaries for New York City. And if you've been watching the news, you've seen what's happening with Eric Adams down there. So we have a sample size of 1 there in New York City, and it's a work in progress. On the Veterans for New York Voters, vein here, we'll be attending the Braver Angels Coliseum debate in New York City, Wednesday, October 16th, and looking to continue to build the relationship with Braver Angels as we're in their network, starting a monthly meeting Tuesday, October 22nd. So I'll be sending out an email to folks in New York State, but if you know anyone that's interested, have them reach out to me. And hosting a majority rule screening Monday, November 13th at Cornell University with the Undergraduate Veterans Association there. And additionally, working on getting a screening going at Syracuse University. And last real quick thing, Unite New York does a VEI polling. So as of August, you can see, I put in the chat here, 50% of New Yorkers think the state is heading in the wrong direction. Nearly 3/4 want term limits for the governor. More than 70% want citizen ballot initiatives, and only 8% think the state is ahead of the curve when it comes to electoral reform. And nearly half want ranked choice voting. So, that's some great information. They put those out on their website. I put the link there if you're interested. You can see what folks in New York State are thinking. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Seamus. And we're excited that in 2025, we feel really confident that Final Five Voting NYC is going to relaunch their effort to bring Final Five voting to New York City. So lots of exciting stuff happening in New York. And speaking of cities, now we're going to close it out with the District of Columbia and my friend and brother from another mother, Adam, who has helped successfully pass, I think, at least 14, maybe 15 ballot amendments in DC and other states. And so a quick update on Petition 83 from Washington, D.C.
All right. Initiative 83 is the talk of the town right now. We have a pretty boring election. There's incumbents that are favored to win in this cycle. So changing the electoral system is getting a lot of attention. There are community meetings happening all over the District of Columbia. Just last night, the DuPont Circle Citizens Association, which is kind of an influential group. It's much older association, has been around for over 50 years, and their leadership is mostly retired. This is our most skeptical audience, and they voted to endorse the initiative. It was 88% in favor among their membership. They actually put it to the membership. So these things keep happening. We keep getting wins and wins and wins. We've done direct mail to every household with a voter so far, and we're planning on doing a lot more thanks to Unite America, who has pledged a very significant amount of money, about $600,000. We may be the District of Columbia, but we actually have more citizens than 2 states that have 4 senators, which we have none still. But some people are seeing this issue as connected to our lack of statehood. So we've been successful in linking the issues. Our treasurer, you may have met Lisa Rice before. Our treasurer is a longtime civil rights leader named Philip Pinnell, who's been getting out in the community, especially Black churches, where he has a lot of influence. I've been to church more in this campaign than any campaign I've worked on. And we really are, explaining what ranked choice voting is and letting independents vote in the primary. We are at 17% of the registered voters in DC are independents. And the realization that that's, over 70,000 people that are being locked out of the primary. And the more we talk about that, that's getting effective. We are starting to get endorsements. We picked up the Sierra Club's endorsement. I mentioned various community associations around town are now endorsing us. But we're still working hard to get a last minute endorsement from some influential labor organizations. This is a 90% Harris town in this upcoming cycle. She'll get 90%. So, all this is taking place in the spectrum of Democrats. It was really interesting to hear about all these Republican-led states and how this is going on. Well, it's just the flip side of it. And I think we are well positioned, though, with a broad spectrum of people. The Washington Post endorsed us just the other day, which is, and all the ballot initiatives I've worked on in the last 10 years in DC, they've never endorsed us. And so, we're hoping for a big win. We're expecting a win. The whole community is expecting it to pass. The polling we did most recently, we were at 65%. But the catch here is that Congress and the DC Council will have the final say, and they can easily bottle this up. So we're going for a big win. We're not like taking our foot off the gas, and we're trying to get in the 70s. So they'll be beyond the pale not to implement this initiative. That's basically where we're at. Is that enough time? I used my time.
That's awesome, Adam. We are getting a little short on time, but that was perfect. Thank you. And super inspiring. And to see both parties fiercely opposing these reforms, it just lets you know we're on the side of the people. We're on the side of giving voters more power. And we're on the right side of history. And we say this often, we are not anti-party. Political parties are important. They're very important. But they shouldn't control who gets to vote in public elections. And that's what we're all about. So I'm going to wrap it up and kick it over to Todd and for any kind of last minute alibis or perhaps other quick updates. But Todd, anything you want to add?
Well, I just want to say how fired up I am and how inspired I feel. I mean, literally. And Adam, your work in DC, we're so grateful for your leadership. And Lisa Rice, who is a military spouse and daughter of a military veteran herself, so she has a real connection to the military community. Longtime, as you said, civil rights leader, and longtime partner, member of VAV as well. So it's so interesting. DC represents a unique opportunity as well because it will force a legislative record for members of Congress. And what's interesting is a lot of politicians want to kind of have their cake and eat it too. They want to be pro-reform and will kind of take the opportunity to be pro-reform, but they just don't want to implicate themselves. But if we start getting members of Congress on record as being in support of these things, and then we hold them accountable when it comes to their backyard, that's part of how we're going to make progress here nationally. So DC is a really important opportunity. The work that Jeff and Brian and Dave and Scott and Brandon and Seamus and Todd Achilles and Tony, what you guys are doing is unbelievable. Really, we're just grateful. So this is a platform that we've built, but it's really the leadership that everyone on this call is bringing to this movement that is going to make this successful and push these things over the finish line. So I'm hopeful, I'm optimistic. We're going to have a lot to talk about in 4 weeks. I'm actually going to go vote right now, early here in Indiana, a state that does not have a citizen initiative. But look, I think we just have to rest in the reality that, or the hope, but also the reality that what we're offering people is what people want. They have to kind of get past this $12 billion industry that's inundating them with contrary messages. But we are fighting on behalf of people, and that's always a good place to be. And history will prove our movement to be a noble one. So really just grateful for everyone here, and Eric, thanks to you and the team for just having this great call.
Yes, so that would be the perfect note to end on. Our friend Ray asked for a quick update from Arizona. Ray, you're always welcome, brother. He said he had something to share.
Hit it, buddy.
Thanks. Really quick, I'm sharing the screen right now. This poll came out today in the Arizona Agenda, which is Arizona Politics Substack. What it suggests, bottom line, is that our open primaries amendment has stronger support than the closed primaries initiative that is also running, but neither one right now has a clear majority, and both have significant undecided. So I know that the campaign has just told sign hubs to release their signs and get them out on streets. They've also got a mailer coming out. So hopefully that will make a difference. But just wanted to share this because I thought it was an interesting data point. Thanks, guys.
Thanks,
That's
Ray.
awesome, Ray. And yeah, two newspapers came out in support of Proposition 140 in Arizona, the state's largest newspaper. So the campaign in Arizona is doing great work. The campaign in South Dakota is also doing great work. And there's a campaign for statewide ranked choice voting in Oregon. So this is the year. This, as Todd said, this is the Super Bowl for the nascent new reform movement. We're just getting started. And you all are helping build this new mission, this new wave that's going to lead us to a new political paradigm that does not yet exist. But we are the builders that are building this together. So thank you so much for everything you're doing. Todd, you want the last word, brother?
No, you did it, buddy. Thank you, guys. Thank you all.
Thanks, everyone.
Stay tuned.
Onward.
Stay active.